Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Pro Line. The football season is complete. We really start turning our attention now to basketball, both NBA and college. And this is the college basketball edition. We're going to look at two of the best games on the weekend slate. Michigan taking on Wisconsin on Saturday. We're going to stay in the Big Ten for the Sunday clash between Indiana and Ohio State. And here to tell us all about it, Big Al McMordie from Big Al Sports, Jim Feist, longtime world champion handicapper, John Creighton from Jim Feist Sports. My name is Dave Cokin. Before we get into the games, let's update you with what's happening this weekend, because we've got some great stuff for you to take advantage of. Big Al off a monster weekend. And the Fortune 500 plays continue to deliver. Northern Iowa coming through in tremendous fashion.
Yeah, looking ahead to this Saturday, Dave, I'm going to have a triple header in college basketball, including another Fortune 500 club winner. Those plays go for $500 online by themselves, but for the Saturday, you get a Saturday triple header. And it comes with this guarantee. You win with a Fortune 500 club play, or the rest of February basketball is absolutely free. And if you sign up early, I'll give you a bonus play going tonight. 4 plays in all. If you do sign up early, call toll free 866-841-1665. It's just $15. 866-841-1665. And once again, you're guaranteed to win that Fortune 500 club play, or the rest of February is absolutely free.
I'm going to also come up with a guaranteed package this weekend. It's a one-day, 3-game event. It's on Saturday, and they're all TV games. It's a 3-game TV parlay on Saturday in basketball. The 3 games for $3. They're $1 a piece. And there's a guarantee. You got to go 3-0, or I'll give you a week of my service at no cost, free on me. You sign up early, and you'll get an under-the-head bonus play that goes tonight. That's included. Grand total, $3. No reason not to take advantage of it. Things are going very well in basketball right now, and we're into the time of year where we've got a lot of rematches, so I really like the schedule, and I think the data at this time of the year is very reliable. Along with scheduling dynamics, you can find some great spots to make money. That's what it's all about. 3 games, $3, guaranteed 3-0. 1-866-896-1629 is the number to call. That's 1-866-896-1629. And a reminder, my free plays are available every day. You can get it on a text message direct to your cell phone. Just text Cokin, C-O-K-I-N, to 313131, and you'll get back a quick little text with that day's free play. Again, that's Cokin, to 313131. Jim, I'm pretty good with math, and a quick addition says that if I were playing your games just on the past 3 Saturdays alone, I'd have a profit of 14 games. That's a lot. That's a lot. What it means is there's lots of action on Saturday, and you're able to take advantage of it and really produce some big profits for the guys playing your games.
Saturdays have been good. Sometimes Saturdays are pretty rough because there's like 3,000 games and you have a lot of work to do to analyze them all. But this year we've been able to focus in on the teams that we know the best, and it's worked out real well. 10-5 3 weeks ago. 12-6 2 weeks ago, 7-4 this past Saturday, and that includes a 2-1 on my Game of the Year package. I did lose with Indiana State, but cashed with Colorado State and Texas. A pair of high roller winners, 49ers and Ravens over the total in the Super Bowl, which was very exciting. And Joe Flacco over 1.5 TD passes. Speaking of high rollers, Saturday I have a rare special release. A high roller personal elite play that goes for $2,000 online. That's right. Go online right now and buy it for $2,000. Or it's just $49 with a guarantee when you make the call to our room, 1-866-841-1655. You will win, or the NBA college games, all of them, free through June. I only release a few of these games each month, so this is a step-out game for me. It's a step-out game for my players. One big play. This is it. 1-866-841-1655. And like Dave, you want free plays each and every day. Text WINNER, W-I-N-N-E-R, to 313131, and we'll send them right to your phone.
All right, guys. Well, let's look at the main events this weekend. Obviously, there are a lot of good games, but I think the Big Ten rightfully commanding a little more of the center stage right now. It's the best conference in the country this year. Doesn't mean they'll produce a national champion or even a Final Four team, but on balance, this is the best league in the country, and that's with a couple of really bad teams in the league in Penn State and Nebraska. But the top of the league is just loaded. And Michigan, Wisconsin goes on Saturday. Al, the Wolverines obviously they're just a powerhouse. Burke, personally, would be my player of the year right now if I had a vote. Wisconsin is as ugly as they've ever been. But boy, I'll tell you, Bo Ryan, that's the thing. Bo Ryan, he knows what to do with this type of player. He doesn't have a true go-to guy on the whole team. And yet there they are, winning games and making life miserable for teams again.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be near pick'em. We record this show a little bit early, so we don't yet have the lines. And if I can get the Badgers in the role of an underdog or pick, then I think they would be a solid take. And that's because college road favorites off a straight-up win that have a win percentage greater than 900, those teams are an awful 111 and 176 against the spread going all the way back to 1991 if their opponent has won at least 25 of its previous 40 home games. In Wisconsin, they've got one of the best home courts in college basketball. Wisconsin at home, 176 and 16 its last 192 home games. Wisconsin is 95, 69, and 2 against the spread in those games, including 6 and 2 as a home dog or pick. So the line will be key for me here, but if I can get the Badgers in a pick 'em or underdog role, then I'm going to take them.
I would think that my number in the game is Michigan 2. So that's my first assessment is where is the game compared to my line. Now, Michigan is off the overtime win against Ohio State. They've had a few days to rest up from that. That'll help. But one thing that doesn't help Michigan in this spot, just in terms of the analysis, is the fact that they're not a deep team. And that could be the drawback for Michigan come tournament time when I don't think they'll have a problem in the first weekend playing probably a 16 seed and then an 8 or 9 a winner of an 8-9 game. They should get through that without much trouble. But when you move forward to the next weekend, I don't know that lack of depth might get them in trouble in the back end of the second weekend. So as good as I think Michigan is, and I think they're arguably the best team in the country, I have a funny feeling this could be a team that gets upset in the tournament. Now, the one thing on the opposite side of that is they've got as good a game coach as there is in the game of college basketball in John Beilein. He is tremendous. And Beilein, I think, can come up with something to counteract whatever Ryan's going to throw at him. The key here for Michigan is, do they get worn down physically? Because Wisconsin's going to come at them and try and turn it into a brawl. If they can do that, I think Wisconsin might pull out the win. But I don't know if they're – I guess what I'm saying to Wisconsin this year is that as good as Ryan is at implementing his style of basketball, I don't think this team's material is as good as previous teams. And I think that at this level – I think they're going to have a little bit of trouble. So if I had to make a pick in this game right now, not knowing the number, I think I'm leaning Michigan. Obviously, the number's going to have a lot to do with whether I get involved in it. And quite honestly, if the number comes where I think it does, I probably won't play the game. But for an opinion, I think Michigan will pull it out, Jim. Just think they're a little too athletic for Wisconsin. And by the way, one final note, Wisconsin cannot make a free throw. If this game's close, that's a bad sign for the Badgers. 61% from the line for the season. One of the worst teams in the country. In a close game, that could be an absolute catastrophe. What do you think, Jim?
Well, you mentioned to start with the free throw issue first. This team is capable of going through a whole game without ever shooting a free throw. Because, all they do is basically shoot outside shots. If they're not hitting your outside shots, they usually have a problem. This is a great under team, under 8-1 versus the Big Ten. When you look at their point spread record, those 6-13 ATS this year, it's hard to bet on this team, but it's easy to bet them under. So if you just look at that alone, now you also look at Michigan coming off an overtime victory, I think it was Tuesday night. So that's a big situation, especially when you point out, Dave, they are not a very deep team. So now they go on the road. They got to go to Wisconsin, which is a tough place to play, as Al pointed out. This team doesn't lose at home. But it's really going to come down to the line for me. If Michigan comes in here, let's say favored 2 or 3, I'm going to probably look for Wisconsin and the under in the game, but it's going to come down to that number. I will definitely be playing the under, however.
John, how about you? You got some thought for this one?
Yeah, I wonder about the lack of firepower for Wisconsin. They're really going to need it this game, and this is a team that is not a very good shooting team, 43% in Big Ten play. They had that terrific 7-game winning streak that kind of surprised a lot of people, but after that, they faded, losing 3 or 4 to Iowa. Michigan State, they lost at home, getting just 47 points. They lost to Minnesota by a point, getting just 44 points. And then this Ohio State team that Michigan just beat, they held them to 58, but still lost by 9 points. They were forced to take 28 three-pointers, only hit 11 of them. When they get behind, that's their game to shoot long range. They're only 7th in the Big Ten shooting beyond the arc, 34%. And let's remember this Michigan team, terrific at defending on the perimeter, 3rd in the Big Ten, allowing just 31% shooting. And some of the trends, the Wolverines are phenomenal, 19-8-1 against the spread in the last 28 road games. So I'm going to lean toward the Wolverines in this one.
All right, we're going to look at Indiana and Ohio State, the Sunday matchup. That's certainly going to be the marquee game on that schedule in just a moment. A couple of things to take care of first, though. We want to go to our man in the street, and that's Jeff Side from LVSS. He's got a free college basketball total and a great special for the rest of February. Jeff, take it away.
Thanks, Dave. A free college play coming up, but first you can get the rest of February hoops, NBA and college, for just $19, including a college conference game of the year going Saturday. I started 2-0 with college games of the years. Another one goes Saturday. Hoops all month for $19, NBA and college with Las Vegas Sports Services. Call LVSS at 1-866-575-8916. Your free play of Saturday in the Big East as Notre Dame hosts Louisville, a pair of strong defensive teams. Louisville allows 40% shooting in conference play, Notre Dame 41%. Louisville was 3rd in the Big East, allowing 58 points per game, a terrific team under the total in conference play, but the offense slipped during a recent 3-game skid, ending with a 53-51 loss to Georgetown, shooting 35%. Notre Dame was home after a 2-game road trip, and in the last home game held Villanova to 60 points and 42% shooting. That game went under the total, part of a 6-1 run under the total by the Irish. Last year, Louisville won in the Big East tourney 64-50 in a game that sailed under the total, holding Notre Dame to 35%, 2 of 17 from three-point land. Notre Dame won the regular season meeting 67-65, but in double overtime, it was 50-50 in regulation. Played Louisville and Notre Dame to stay under the total. Once again, get the rest of February basketball, NBA and college for just $19, including a college conference game of the year going Saturday. Call LVSS at 1-866-575-8916. Back to you, Dave.
All right, thanks, Jeff, and good luck this weekend. Twitter and Facebook are places we'd love to have you follow us. Follow us on Twitter at Jim Feist Sports, or follow us on, or friend us on Facebook at Proline TV. There's also opportunities for you to leave your questions or comments, and if we use one of them on the show, you put into a drawing to win $100 worth of plays from any handicapper of your choice. Greg Foster from Fort Wayne, Indiana, asked the question this week. It's a good question. Are letdown spots and emotion factored into the college basketball betting line before the game? That's a really interesting question, because a lot of times you'll hear us and other handicappers talk about these very things in analyzing a game. Scheduling dynamics. Is it a potential flat spot for a team coming off a big game? How are they going to respond to an overtime performance in the last game? But the odds makers do this too. So sometimes the bargain that you think you're getting isn't really there. Let me give you one example of it. On Tuesday, Miami was at home against Boston College, and the right number in the game was probably about 17 or 18. That's what the game power rated to. But Miami was off a very big win on the road against NC State in just a tremendous game last Saturday. And they've got North Carolina coming up this Saturday. They've already beaten Boston College. They're at home. It's a soft spot. Well, the odds makers seem to factor that into the number, because it opened 15, was immediately bet down to 14, and I think it actually got down to like 12. So what happened was the odds makers factored it into their point spread to begin with, and then the players said, hey, wait a minute, this is a flat spot for Miami. I think I got something here. And they bet into an already bad number, and really you got the worst of it. Now, it doesn't mean that you should automatically run to the favorite in that spot. But for me, it's kind of a situation where if I'm able to recognize the odds maker has altered the number based on the situation, I won't play it if I'm not going to get fair value. And I might end up looking at the other side, because if everybody thinks they've got the right idea, well, they probably don't. Al, I mean, I'm sure there are all kinds of numbers that you can draw out of this in terms of situational stuff that you've followed over the years. And at some point, the odds makers catch on and start adjusting. So you have to adjust as well.
Yeah, you just made a great point. For example, in the 1990s, if we go back to the, Cro-Magnon days in sports gambling, one of the things that worked well back then in the 1980s and 1990s was in college basketball, people would like to take the unranked favorite over the ranked underdogs. And it worked well for years, but starting around 1999, the worm turned, the odds makers caught on, as you just talked about, and they began, moving the numbers a little bit. So if you would get, for example, let's just say a Northern Iowa, that might be favored by 1 point over a Creighton, they might make it 2.5. Well, the public never has caught on, and that these ranked underdogs have been doing very well over the past 13 years. And, so you do have to get fair value, as you mentioned, Dave. It's the most important thing in gambling.
It's very important to start off by making a number on a game. Like Dave, you said, you make numbers, and you make Michigan over Wisconsin a couple point favor. Well, it's very important to make a number on a game and then stick with that as your base. And then if you make a game 17, it opens 15. Well, now you're starting to look towards the favorite. But if you have these other factors in there, you say, okay, there's a letdown game and it's a look ahead potential as well. Or maybe one of the players is a little dinged up. You have to factor those things in, and you should have a margin between what I don't know how you'd ever played any of these games without being able to make a number. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's all about numbers. It's really not about teams. It's about whether they cover the spread or not. It's not about winning national championships or winning straight up. We're working against the numbers. So you have to have a number. A good power rating system, and there's a million of them out there, is very important to start with, and then you can play with all the other factors as well. John?
Yeah, they certainly do. Emotion. We all know about rivalry games, how the odds makers look at that. But one other thing to keep in mind, it would be revenge situations. They do look at the last time these two teams played, especially if it's in conference. If it was an embarrassing game or a blowout, yeah, they would factor that into the line. In fact, the game that we're going to talk about, Indiana, Ohio State, has a bit of that too that I can mention.
All right, well, let's talk about this game. This is, to me, I think just in terms of a conflict for me, this is probably the game this weekend. My numbers are going to say that Indiana's the play in this game. I think Indiana actually should be a 1-point favorite in this basketball game, so I think you're going to get a little value on Indiana. I also think they actually match up really well. Just the matchup itself, I think they match up well with Ohio State. Indiana's backcourt is not a strength, but if they're not going to get killed in the backcourt matchup, I don't know if there's a front court out there that's going to beat them. Zeller is tremendous. Oladipo is he broken out this year. I mean, he's been awesome.
Oh,
this team.
been fabulous.
Phenomenal 1-2 punch. And so when I match these teams up, and my number says it's going to be Indiana, and yet I probably won't play the game. And the reason for it is this. I think Tom Crean's a great recruiter. I think he plays an exciting brand of basketball. But I think he can be outcoached in games. And when he gets into a style matchup that's not to his liking, in other words, when they get slowed down, Indiana can't seem to do anything about it. They matched up with Wisconsin at home a few weeks ago. And they outmanned Wisconsin. They should have flat out rolled Wisconsin off the court. They ended up losing the basketball game. Wisconsin had a decent shooting night in the first half, and then Wisconsin started playing Wisconsin basketball. And Indiana had no idea what to do. They just could not break that defense. They got suffocated. Mata's a really good coach. He's going to come out with the same stuff here. So as much as it's the beauty of basketball sometimes, where I've got a definite play on my numbers here. No question about it. I mean, Indiana will be the dog in this game, and I would definitely take the points. I think they match up well with the team, but I don't like the coaching matchup, and I'll end up out of the game. That's how you eliminate games, which is not necessarily a bad thing when you've got 344 teams on the board or whatever the hell it is now. You want to be able to throw out games. Otherwise, you're playing the whole schedule. I'll give you Indiana as an opinion, but Al, I don't think it's a game I'll play.
Well, one of the things I like to do is, I don't do it all the time, but I like to go against the number one ranked team, provided the situation is good. These number one ranked teams have been big time money burners of late, and I'm not saying that the number's wrong. That's not what I think is going on here. What I'm saying is that I think when a team ascends to the number one ranking in the polls, they might get complacent. And then certainly their opponent wants to knock off the number one team. And sometimes that's all you need just to get, profit. And when you take a look at what the number one teams have done, for example, this season in conference play, they're 3-6 against the spread. They're 34-51 their last 85 conference games. And on the road this season, the number one ranked team is 1-3 against the spread. And if you go back a number of years, they're now 19-28 against the spread, their last 47. In this series, the Buckeyes have dominated. They've covered 8 of the last 9 versus Indiana. That's the only way I'm going to look here.
I totally, Al, you stole what I was going to say. Number one teams, this is perfect. Earlier in the week, the Ohio State players vowed to pay back the Hoosiers for the 74-70 loss on New Year's Eve. In that game, the Buckeyes had 17 turnovers and 22 fouls. This is a big game for Ohio State. They're pointing to it. Indiana just knocks off Michigan. This game is huge for Ohio State. They have this one circled. Believe me, they are going to be sky high for this game. And I know the number is going to be probably favor Ohio State in this game, but and Indiana, of course, being the higher ranked team, people are going to look at that kind of like cockeyed and say, well, how can that be? But I think Ohio State's the right side.
Keep an eye on the emotional factors, too, for this one. I mean, when you look back at last year's meetings, the home team won each game. Well, big deal. That happens all the time. But take a closer look at what happened. Indiana won that first game 74-70. They got 22 fouls called on them. And the week of the rematch, Ohio State was talking about, we want to pay this team back. We were embarrassed by what happened. And then reports are that Thad Matta invited Urban Meyer into the dressing room before the game, gave a little speech. Apparently he talked about being physically and mentally tough. Well, what happened is Ohio State went out and just destroyed Indiana, blew them out in the game, led 35-14 at the half. So they came out running and gunning right from the opening tip and shot 54% for the game. So I wonder if, keep an eye this week, and if Indiana is going to remember that game and say, you know what, they really hammered it to us and we're very, very physical. We're in payback mode this time. Good stuff.
History repeats itself. This is going to be the same situation as happened last year.
All right. We'll wrap it up with best bets, and we can talk about one of the ones we just talked about, or any game on the schedule. Al, let's swing it with you first.
Well, I'm going to go back to my alma mater and go against the Wolverines. My best bet will be on the Wisconsin Badgers. And, I've got a great card going on Saturday in college basketball. I've got a triple header, including a Fortune 500 Club play. That play goes for $500 by itself. So I'm going to give you those 3 plays for just $15, or better yet, if you join tonight, you can get a 4th play, a bonus play. So you get all 4 winners for just $15 if you call early. Call 866-841-1665, and you're guaranteed to win that Fortune 500 Club play, where the rest of February basketball is absolutely free. 866-841-1665.
I think we discussed the pace in Michigan, Wisconsin. I really didn't talk much about the total, but I think that's the way to play as well. I think the under is the right play in this game. And you're not going to get a bargain on the number, okay? The odds makers know that this is going to be this type of game, but Wisconsin, there's no secret about what Wisconsin's going to do, all right? They're going to try and slow it down. You get a bonus because if it turns into a physical game, Wisconsin can't make a free throw, so that could result actually in less points than you think. And it is a bit of a dead spot for Michigan, coming off that big overtime win over Ohio State. So you kind of think they might be able to get out-tempoed here, if you will. And it might end up at Wisconsin's pace. So, gritty, ugly, typical Wisconsin game up in Madison. I'll take it under. Now, if you're looking for 3-0 guaranteed, I want you to call me this weekend because I've got a guaranteed 3-game sweep on Saturday. All TV games, so you can watch them. $3 for all 3. It comes with a 3-0 guarantee. You got to win them all, or you get a full week free on me. Sign up early. I'll give you an under-the-hat bonus play that I've got going tonight in basketball. All of it's for $3. 1-866-896, excuse me, 1629. That's 1-866-896-1629. Jim?
Well, I'm going to go along with what I talked about earlier with Wisconsin and Michigan to go under the total. I actually think this game, I'm not sure that either one of these teams are going to get the 50. So, I mean, it's very possible you can see a 49-48, something like that, because I think Michigan is actually spent. They've put a lot of energy into the last couple of games. Now they're traveling again on the road. Tough spot. Wisconsin, as Al pointed out earlier, this team is very, very tough at home. They're going to control the tempo. Usually, the fouls go to the home team. It's amazing how many times that happens. But I look for Wisconsin to play a very inspirational game here. Michigan is 12-7 under the total on the year. Wisconsin's 11-6 under the total, but that's really not the significant factor. It's Wisconsin's going to dictate tempo here, and this is going to be an underplay. As far as I'm concerned, I've got a big play, a $2,000 play. Only release a few of them every year. Online, $2,000. You can make a call and get it for $49 along with a guarantee. If the game has to win or the NBA and college hoops are free through June, the number to call is 1-866-841-1655 for this monster one-time play.
John, you want to chime in with the best bet?
It's going to be a boring trifecta, guys. Michigan, Wisconsin under the total. These teams have gone 2 out of every 3 games under the total this season. Wisconsin, being at home is going to slow the pace down. Look at last year's game, 100 total points scored. Michigan shot 39, Wisconsin 31. Another low-scoring game.
All right, that's going to wrap up the college edition of Pro Line, but we're back to doing 2 of these every week, and that means there's an NBA edition of Pro Line out there. Make sure to check it out. We're going to be talking about some of the teams we think might be the real deal or might be frauds. Hey, look, you got to check the show out to find out. So make sure and visit the site or stay on the site and check out the NBA version of Pro Line. For Big Al, for Jim Feist and John Creighton, I'm Dave Cokin. Thanks a lot for watching Knock 'em Dead this weekend. We'll talk to you next week.